This was not part of the deal, Alina. Had you said, hey, I want to invite a friend and she wants to interrogate you, it may have been different.
It's your turn now to be interrogated.
That's true. Good point.
Well, so interview with Mr. Boatman. There is in this life two kinds of people, and there is people that sell what they accomplished at some point, and they don't want to challenge themselves in using life's opportunities, becoming more, thinking, hey, I don't need no more, I'm not greedy, I'm happy with what I got and what I accomplished, so I'm just going to do the same thing for the rest of my life and be happy. And then there is other kind of people that have their desire to grow, no matter what they accomplish so far. That doesn't mean that they are greedy, they just love to use life's opportunities to challenge themselves and seeing how far they can grow. So how far can a tree grow? As far as it can. So my Motivational Book Readers Club is oriented towards the people that have the desire to always grow. And one of my goals for our Motivational Book Club is to interview people that achieve certain level of success in life and share their experience with others that are in the same journey of accomplishing their goals, plans, dreams of their lives. So, Mr. Boatman, can you start from the beginning? What was you born in a family that will have more advantages of giving you everything you need to succeed in life, like pay for college, have the right relatives to find you a job, and get to the point where you are right now? Or did you accomplish your success with your own strengths and desires?
That was a really long question.
Well, there is a lot of times they say that people that accomplish the stuff, they just was born in the right family at the right time, with the right money, with the right relatives, and they become successful. Is that true about you?
Well, I would say the answer is yes and no, because if we want to accept this or not, there are certain people, just by the color of their skin or the neighborhood they live in, they are born into privilege. I believe that 100%. Not to say that you can't be born of a certain color or in a certain neighborhood and not become successful, but you know, I guess just by the nature of being a white person in America, I had certain privileges that have been afforded to me.
There is a lot of white people that choose to do different kind of stuff. Like, I don't know, they settle for, I want to live life today and I don't want to think about tomorrow, so I just want to have fun. A lot of people give me that impression about American culture in a way, and you're different. And I just wanted to see, did you have desire in you? Did you have, when you was a little kid, did you have this thing in your head that you want to become somebody, or did you got in trouble and then change your mind about it and become and follow your dreams?
Well, I never got in trouble. I was always a very, very good kid, and my parents did, I would say, bring me up right, in that they always encouraged me to do well in school and to attend church, whatever, you know, church. And my parents are divorced too, so I went to one church on one Sunday, and then when I visit my dad, I do another church, and so I got to experience lots of different religions. But most religions, right, teach you to do good things, and so I had good parents in that regard. And then when I was 15 years old, I was introduced to the Youth Explorer program, which is basically like a youth police program. And that was what sparked the interest in me to want to become a policeman. And I don't know of a lot of kids that when they're, you know, 7 or 10 or 12 years old, they know what they want to do in their life. But for me, that light bulb came on when I was about 15, 16 years old. And I said, I want to work in the criminal justice field. And initially my thoughts were that I wanted to be a police officer. So when I went to college, that was my focus, was, you know, taking classes that were geared toward law enforcement, etc. And when I completed the program, I started working at the Tooele County Sheriff's Department, and I worked in the jail. So I guess I was successful in that I set a goal at 15 to become a policeman, and I did that. And so I was working in the jail in Tooele, and as you can imagine, I was not a big fan of being in jail because working as an employee in the jail is not a whole lot different than being an inmate in the jail.
Oh.
You know, we're eating the same food, we're sitting in the same seats, you're dealing with the same people, and I did not find that very rewarding at all. So I wanted to become a police officer on the street who would take them to the jail, and then I could forget about them. And that's what prompted us to move to West Wendover. Was I applied for West Wendover and got a job here. So I did patrol work, responding to calls and stopping cars and all that kind of stuff for 6 years in West Wendover. But I wasn't so. It was funny how you mentioned before, some people become satisfied. So I was content, but I was not satisfied. I wanted to do more, and I also wanted to. I understand that life is, you only get one rodeo, one turn, and so I don't want to just limit myself to doing one thing. So I was contacted by the juvenile probation department when I had been at the police department for about 5.5 years, and they said that their juvenile probation officer assigned to Wendover, Wells, and Jackpot was moving to Elko, and they asked me if I wanted to do that job. And at first, I was a little, well, I guess my ego probably got in the way a little bit. I thought, you know, I do want to do other things in the criminal justice field, but I don't know if being a juvenile probation officer is the right thing to do, because I almost felt like it was a step backwards as opposed to like becoming a police chief or, you know, something like that. That would be a step forward in my mind, but I thought it would be a good opportunity. So I ended up working for juvenile probation, and that actually to date, even including my job now that I have, was the best job I've ever had. It was the most rewarding. I got to work with kids like David, who, you know, had been identified as a kid that, you know, obviously no one knows the future, but they said, you know, gosh, David, he doesn't appear to be going down this right road. Can you talk with him? And so I would talk with kids, you know, in an elementary school setting, and then obviously I would deal with the kids that do get in trouble, and we try to correct their behavior. And that's the beautiful thing about the juvenile justice system. It's about rehabilitating kids. It's not about punishing them. And the system that Yasmin and I are now in is about punishing you, for the most part. I mean, we do a little bit of trying to change behavior through, like, domestic violence counseling or drug and alcohol counseling, but really, I mean, you think about it, when an adult does something wrong, what happens to them? They get fined or they go to jail, or both. And I'm not so sure that that's an effective way of changing people's behavior. The juvenile system is, we don't care about getting money out of you. You know, we just don't want you to be in court again. So it's a lot of drug testing and counseling with people and sending them to mental health providers or drug and alcohol counselors, things like that. And then we also had programs where we could send a kid for, you know, 2 months, like as little as 30 days and as much as a year and a half. You know, we had a kid, and I may be totally off topic here, but we had a kid in town that he was about 16 and a half years old and had essentially 0 credits in high school. There was no way he was going to graduate. Zero chance of graduating. And luckily, he broke the law. That sounds crazy. But luckily, he broke the law, and he was put on probation, and he had some substance abuse issues and some other things. We were able to get him clean and then send him to a program down in Death Valley, basically near California, but in the Nevada side. And he got his diploma. He was able to get a high school diploma. Now, he'll probably never go any farther than that. I mean, he'll never get, you know, go off and be a doctor or something, but you and I both know that many jobs, that door is closed to you if you don't even have a high school diploma. So, you know, that's what I see the criminal justice system being ideally. We help people get to that next step instead of sending them to jail or make them pay money. So, for example, in the adult system, we have someone who comes in for possession of a hypodermic device, a needle, for shooting meth or heroin or something. Many courts around the country, they fine this drug addict and they say, all right, you know, you came in and you're now guilty of possessing this needle. You have to pay the court $500 or whatever it is. So this person fears going to jail. So they're going to pay the fine. Well, either one, they're not going to pay the fine and then you send them to jail anyways. Or two, they're like, gosh, I got to make these fines to the court, so I'm going to steal or, you know, rob or sell drugs or whatever I got to do to get that money to pay the court. So it's almost like we're encouraging bad behavior by fining these people. I wish that we had a way that we could just say, listen, don't worry about fines. I'm going to pay for you to go to drug rehab for 30 days. And if you come back again after we've helped you, you know, then we can look at jail or then we can look at fines. But it doesn't make any sense to me to just beat people over the head who are already down and out. I mean, a lot of these people are either homeless, they're near homeless, they're living with their parents, they're stealing, you know, they're dealing with their addiction. And what they really want is for someone to intervene in their life and make them do something that changes this behavior. But fining people and sending them to jail, I mean, unless it's for like a long period of time, say you send them to jail for 6 months or a year, I think you're just wasting your time. Anyways.
It seems like, almost like when something bad happens, it's not as bad if it changes your life. Like, I don't know how you say that, when something bad happens.
Almost like it was supposed to happen or something?
Yeah, like you, everything bad brings something good in a way. In a way, changes things to bringing something good. So that's interesting. You see your profession as helping people, not punishing, not feeling like an ego, but helping people, bringing the best out of them and changing their life towards living their life a different way from the way they was doing before. And it seems like
well, now in the adult system, I have no money. The budget does not allow for me to send people to rehab or to pay for drug and alcohol counseling. It's all dependent upon the person. And most of these people, they don't have insurance because they can't even hold a job. So I'm very frustrated in the system that I'm operating within right now. As a juvenile, the system was dang near perfect because the county allows and the state allows for money to be spent. So what happens is when a kid gets in trouble and he's put in jail, the juvenile probation department applies for Medicaid for that kid. And then the state has funding where we can say, all right, little Johnny here's got a problem with drugs, you know, let's send him to rehab in hopes that when he's 18, he doesn't have a drug problem anymore. Because once you turn 18 and you're in the adult system, it's not about fixing you anymore, it's about punishing you for the most part. And that's the frustrating part about our job. And Yasmin here, she works in the court too, in case you didn't know. It's very frustrating. We recently had a young man, he's an adult, he's like 24, 25 years old, who clearly, by his behaviors that brought him to court, had mental health problems. And so, I had to find $855, which may not sound like a lot of money, but we don't have money. The city and the county do not give us a bunch of money for this type of thing. We spend all of our wages essentially on employees and like office supplies, you know, paper and pens and copies and all that kind of stuff. Very, very, very little money to be spent on helping people. So I had to find money out of our like photocopy paper account or whatever. $855 to get this guy a psychological evaluation. And he's just a kid he's a young man that I knew from when I was a juvenile probation officer. I knew that he wasn't right. He wasn't right in the head. So I said, you know what? I don't care. We're going to I'll pay for it if I have to. But we're going to get this kid the help he needs. So he was able to get this evaluation done. And now he's going to be able, because we got this evaluation done, now his parents' insurance will cover treatment. And he's going to go to a place, basically, where he can have someone basically take care of him all the time. Take him to and from work, you know, help him with a budget, buying groceries and this kind of stuff. But how many more people in Wendover that come to court could use services like that I don't even know who the kid, I mean, I just happen to know this guy and I knew something was wrong. But most people, we don't know who they are. And if we could if I had the money, I would love to say to the attorney, do you think that some services might be available to this person to get them help? The attorney could say, yeah, you know what, Judge? I think he's a drug addict, or I think he's got mental health problems, and then we could fix the problem. But I don't have money for that. So getting back to your original question.
Okay.
So I've always been content in my life. What really brings me true contentment in my life is having a good family, and it sounds like you know my wife.
Yeah.
My wife is wonderful, and she has always been very supportive. In fact, the other day, all of the judges several judges from Northern Nevada went to the high school to give a presentation, and one of the questions that the kids asked was, when you decided to run for judge, because you have to get elected, right? When you decided to run for judge, was your family supportive?
Mm-hmm.
And I had a big smile on my face, and I said, and this is no lie, God's honest truth, I could tell my wife tomorrow that I hate my job, I want to quit, and I want to dig ditches. And she would say, okay, we'll make it work. I have a wonderful, wonderful, very supportive wife. So anyways, I was a juvenile probation officer, and I was content. But I do believe that you should never be satisfied. You should always be looking for another opportunity. And so I was approached by some people in the community, and they said to me, you should run for judge. And I never had any intentions to do that. It actually never even occurred to me that, oh, you know, hey, you should run for judge. It never occurred to me. But once the idea was put into my head, I thought, well, maybe I should look into it. And I was already really excited and pumped about the juvenile justice system. And I thought, well, we can bring some of this to the adult court. I was naive and stupid, and I didn't realize that there are very, very huge restrictions in the adult system. So I have been very disappointed in these first 4.5 years that I've been judge, that I haven't been able to do more good.
Do you think this is like a future dream of yours, that you can do something about it, look into it and do something about it?
Yes. So this year's fight, or this term's fight, because it's a 6-year term, this fight was about getting the right people at the court, getting the right number of employees, and we just now, this was my 3rd or 4th year, I think it was my 3rd year, trying to get our part-time position made full-time, and it finally happened. Because when all of the employees are running at 100 miles an hour all day long, you can't do anything extra. Nothing. There's nothing. And I'm hoping that now that we will have a little bit of breathing room, and Yasmin's here, she can talk. How busy are the clerks from 8 to 5? And don't exaggerate, be honest.
Non-stop.
It is non-stop. So if I were to say, we're going to implement some program, there is no time in the day for them to do that. 0 time. Although I did implement one program because I thought it was very, very needed, and that was a community service program. So before I was judge, and I'm not trying to fault the previous judge, I'm just saying that this was the practice. It's not a diss on him. He would say, you need to do community service, for example, like someone who can't pay a fine. You can do community service, and it has to be with a nonprofit organization. And so I was hearing stories that, say a husband beat up his wife, and he was told you have to do 50 hours of community service. That this guy would go to a church or something, and he would do 25 hours, and his wife would do 25 hours for a total of 50 hours. That's wrong. He needs to do 50 hours. And then I also heard stories that, you know, a well-intentioned religious leader, for example, would say, all right, I understand you have 50 hours to do. If you work really hard for 30 hours, I'll put that you did 50. But be really hard working for 30 hours. Well, that's not what I said. I didn't say do 30 hours. I said do 50 hours. So what I did was I started a program where one of the clerks goes out with the community service workers and monitors what they do. And they actually come up with the activity. So you may have seen people wearing orange vests and hard hats on Main Street. Those are community service workers that are being supervised by one of the clerks. Or we sometimes send them down to the animal shelter to clean the dog pens, or, you know, whatever they have. You know, they've painted walls and all sorts of stuff. But if the court orders them to do 10 hours, they do 10 hours, and we know that they did 10 hours and not their friend or their wife or whatever else. But now that we have more employees working, what I'm hoping is that one of the clerks can send out letters saying, hey, you have a warrant for your arrest. If you pay the warrant, the amount that you owe, we won't have to, we won't have you arrested or anything like that. Just pay the money. And I'm hoping with that additional money, we can then start to pay for some things with money that people are paying from delinquent fines or, traffic citations, things like that. But we'll see.
Well, that's a good idea towards something better. So I hope God will help you to accomplishing.
Thanks. So one more thing.
Yes.
So about being satisfied, I'm still not satisfied. I'm not satisfied, and I don't think I'll ever be satisfied. And another thing, this is totally about the seminar we're going to, and not necessarily my job. But I really, 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 really want to retire at 50 years old.
How old are you?
I'm 40
okay.
and a half. 40 and a half, so I've got a little ways, but I'm always I call it what I call mountain climber's disease, and it's a term that I made up. But I love to climb a mountain. It's like be a policeman. And then once I get to the top of the mountain, I'm like, well, geez, there's another mountain over there, and then I want to go climb that mountain. And now that I'm at the top of this mountain, I'm like, geez, what's the next mountain? And for me, the next mountain is I want to retire at 50. So I'm saving everything I can. We're trying to be frugal. That's why I'm making all of you pay $5 for gas instead of me paying for it. I want to be frugal, and I want to retire at 50. And then once I'm retired and money is not a problem anymore, then I can go to another mountain and say, listen, because let's be honest, money controls us.
It helps.
Most of our life, we have to work. But if I get to the point where I don't have to work anymore, I'm only working because I want to. I can find all sorts of mountains around the whole world that I can go conquer. Like, it could be, doing a religious mission in Africa or something, or it could be going to high schools and talking about, saving for retirement, which is something I like to do in West Wendover, Wendover, Utah too. I can find all sorts of mountains where I can just pick and choose what I want to do. But right now, even though I love my job, I love what we do, I go because I have to. Because I have to make a house payment, I have to pay the car, the insurance, all that stuff. So that's where I'm at.
That's the kind of people I would like to have in my motivational book clubs and looking for. The people that want to grow, no matter what they accomplish, they just want to grow more and more, like a tree, to see how far they can reach. And one of those people is Alina.
That's good.
And another person that they have is, I don't know if you know, Octavio Collazo. He has a brother, Rene Collazo.
Oh, I know Rene. I'm not sure I know his brother.
Lupe Collazo. Well, they kind of, we call this rat race, when you cannot live without going to your job. So they accomplished this goal of living the rat race, and like, for example, a little bit, and they was from a very poor family from Mexico and came over here with this desire to accomplish something in their life. And at this point, like his sister, she doesn't have to go to work because she has an income coming, because they looked into investment, a commercial investment. They did it together as a family, and in 5 years they worked very hard, they paid off. Now they own the commercial property, they get the profits out of it, and they don't have to go to work to do something with their life, So that's my goal in life too, and I see it's your goal, and I hope everybody who joins my Motivational Book Club has the same goal. Because,
well, the nice thing about, if I can make a pitch for working for the government, and I certainly, when we go to the seminar, I'm sure they're going to talk about that there are various types of investments, right? You can invest in precious metals, or in the stock market, or the bond market, or real estate, or any number of things. And I'm happy to hear that your friends have made a good investment, you know, because it could have gone the other way, right? They could have bought it and the bottom fell out of it. Now they're like bankrupt.
That's another question I have.
But nice thing about working for the government, if you didn't know this, is you are entitled to a pension. Have you heard of a pension?
A pension?
Yeah, it starts
it's
with
like
starts
you
with
go
a P.
to retirement early?
Well, no, not necessarily early. What it means is for every year that you work for the government, being a policeman, a fireman, a teacher, or like a janitor for the county or the state or a city, for every year that you work there, in addition to the money that you're making in your paychecks, the government is putting into a big fund that's managed by the state. And then when you retire, at whatever age you're eligible, so in Nevada, for example, if you work 30 years, so if you start when you're 18 years old, when you're 48 years old, you can start drawing a pension or a paycheck super young at 48, and you get it until the day you die. So that's another thing that really motivates me. I mean, I have had opportunities to work outside of the government. In fact, recently I was approached by a company about being a sales rep for, it's a kind of a technology company. Anyways, without getting into detail, but what kept me working for the government is this pension, because it really is valuable. So as people are looking for careers, like David, for example, generally you have either a 401k, which is money you put in plus a small percentage that the company puts in, or you have a pension. You don't have a pension and a 401k. It's one or the other. And I'm now 20 years into the pension system in Nevada, so it's going to be very hard for me to leave until I reach my retirement age, and then I'll leave.
And you can retire at 50, so.
Yeah, I'll have my 30 years in when I'm 50. What about bankruptcy? No, I've never been bankrupt.
No. Can you share with us what influenced you to have the desire to succeed? But you said that it's just in you. It's like a motivation in you, like you shoot for a mountain and you climb it and then want to go for another one. That's
a good question. So I would ask you mothers in the room. David, you don't have any kids, right?
No.
No? Now that you know of, good. Like, when you have kids and you really want to motivate them to do something, can you truly do anything? I mean, can you really motivate? We can create situations and circumstances where they think, I better do something different because my mom's going to spank me or take away my Xbox or whatever it is. But when it comes down to it, like deep down inside that person, this, and I may be totally wrong, I think that you either have it or you don't have it. And I don't know what creates that.
Well, you started right, and I understand the idea. Like, if you succeed, you are a model for your kids. So you're doing it in a way to be a model for your kids, to see that, you know, you can succeed in life if you really work hard for it. You know, that's in a way motivates me to look ahead for a career or something. In a way that the kids are, they absorb everything you say, everything you do, everything you achieve when you're proud of. They are proud of that too. So
let me give you an example. I'm from a family of 10 kids, and we have gone in 10 different directions. So my parents are giving the same example to all 10 of us, right? My dad went to work every day, my mom stayed home and, you know, cleaned the house and made sure we had food and clothes and all that stuff. So I agree with you that parents are a strong example. There is no stronger example. But how do you explain then that out of 10 kids, they went in 10 different directions? And we have some that I've got a brother who's been involved in heavy drugs, and I have a brother that committed suicide. I've got some that are really motivated by money, and other ones that don't care one bit about money. They're just satisfied with what they have. And I mean, how do you explain that then?
That's what I was asking.
Well, sadly, my opinion is that I think that God either blesses you with an internal motivation to succeed, or I don't want to say curses you, but or maybe doesn't give you quite as much. Because it really amazes me how people have no motivation. Like you say, like they live in a crappy house, have crappy everything, and they are just fine like that. And I don't get it, but I'm not judging them. I don't want to say they're a bad person. It just surprises me that they're not more motivated to get out, especially in a country that we live in. See, I got to live outside of the country for a couple of years too, and so I got to see how blessed we are in the United States. And if you're a failure in the United States, absent like mental health issues, you know, things that just naturally happen, but like an able-bodied, good-minded person that doesn't succeed in this country, that's your own damn fault, in my opinion.
I think the same way. So you said that this desire is always in you. That's one of the questions. Was this desire always in you? Or did you have moments when you didn't want to do nothing?
Same. I'm just kidding.
Well, I think we all have lazy moments, right? You know? But I've never thought I want to just quit my job and go live in the mountains and be live off the land or something. I mean, I'm motivated, and again, people will fault me for this, but I am motivated by money too, because you know, people say that money isn't happiness. Well, and that is true to a degree, but I guarantee you, if you have money and those needs met by money, you're able to be happier because of other things, you know, your family, or you know, hobbies or whatever.
One of my motivational speaker, Anthony Robbins, said money is a tool. It's how you use it. It's what matters. You use it to do good things, it makes you happy, it makes everybody happy. If you want to use it to do bad things, it will make everybody unhappy.
I agree.
And the more you have, the more things that you can show in a way, accomplish, where it makes you more of who you are.
Sure, I think it highlights your evils or your goods.
Yes.
You know?
If you're a good person, you do more good with that money. If you're a bad person, you do more bad with that money.
Well, that's very wise.
Did you encounter challenges in your journey, or was it easy for you?
Oh my goodness. Well, the one that comes to mind is when I was running for judge. I have lived what I consider a very clean life. So, and this is not to fault other people, but I have made decisions in my life for different reasons. And like, I've never drank alcohol in my life. I'm 40 years old, I've still never had a drink of a beer. I've never tried drugs or smoked, or I've never been arrested, and I've never been